We all knew it was only a matter of time before we got a post from Drew Gibson. What's up, degenerates? It's the Disc Golf World. I'm Jefferson, and alongside me as always, the one with all the holes in his game, Swiss Cheese. Recapping everything you need to know from round 3 of the World Championships, since we know it might have been a hard time to see. Before that, I gotta give a huge thanks to our Patreon and YouTube members for supporting the channel. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to cover Drew Gibson tweets so closely, as he went on to say the PDGA should invest in a real course designer. I should note this was directed at Ivy Hills and course designer Nate Heinold, not Paul Macbeth. Come on guys, you might think Drew's stupid, but he's not dumb. And here, it's hard to argue against his case, as he first points out the course has never been seen on a Pro Tour event prior. And now, it's not only hosting a major championship, but the most prestigious event all year. So yeah, let's buy out Home Depot of stakes and rope. That makes for a good course design, everyone knows that. Haven't you seen all the positives from Lake Eureka and Toboggan? I'm pretty sure every hole at Ivy Hills is lined with OB. I know it's basically impossible to see through the pixels, but it's there. Now, imagine from 400 feet, but it's not like the pros are throwing that far to tight landing zones with nothing but that line being the distinction between in and out of bounds. And personally, I feel at no point should we ever expect pros to ask fans for their input. Also, if you're ever in that position, remember, it always crossed. Makes it better when some of these OBs are 8 feet from the target, as Drew points out. Andrew Presnell hopped in to say, the green on 14 is ridiculous. If you can't think of which one that is, let me help you out. The absolute rollaway king, and from the sounds of it, not a player favorite. As Ezra Robinson went on to say, it's the worst hole he's ever played. Sure, that was probably posted after his disc rolled 100 feet away, but this green is pure luck with the rough terrain that can set off any disc. Oh yeah, and roll to one of those manufactured OBs that was so necessary. It almost feels like someone watched the European Open swing and decided to do the Wish version. Drew then goes on to talk about the PDGA should hire a professional course designer, which seems insane that hasn't already happened, especially when the tournament director of the World Championships said this just a couple weeks ago.
I designed the course at Ivy Hill. I think I've gotten a little better as a course designer, but I'm not a top designer. I think I do a good job, but I'm always learning.
I guess you can argue that Nate was trying to be humble when he called himself not a top designer. Just feels weird when he's chosen to design what I hope to believe should be a world-class course. I'm not saying he shouldn't TD, but why does he have to be the guy making the design when there are plenty of paid designers out there? And yes, there are people out there designing courses for a living, so don't give me any of that bullshit about that not existing. Plenty of people have gone on to call Drew soft for making these posts. And honestly, some of them are pretty funny. Like, look at this one. But Gibson came with the receipts. And he's not wrong about some pros refusing to say negative things publicly about the course. Although, that certainly didn't stop them from coming up to us to trauma dump. I'm glad we became the emotional support spectators for some pros. Drew, on the other hand, will just drop bombs on social media. Like all these people online complaining about the video quality. I'm gonna say this again so people can't blame me for being the one to, and I quote, bitch. We've been at the event, so I haven't watched any of the coverage, so I don't know what it looks like, but damn, the fans have been on fire with the jokes. Ganon Blur is incredible, and they just keep getting better from there. And they say you Reddit people are just a cesspool. They also pointed out probably the biggest reason more people don't sign up for DGN. I will say the DGPT did their best to try and make the coverage as good as possible. Scattered all over New London, there were LAN devices, and the cameramen were carrying around extra signal. Unfortunately, that didn't stop the stream from experiencing technical difficulties. Thankfully, the next 2 days are at Ivy Hill, so while you get better coverage, I'll be trying to keep my knees in their socket. On that note, Swiss, hit the people with the FPO recap. I mean, it's not like Foundation will do it.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you just got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This man is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.
The nephew spitting fire in that intro with an absolute bar for the handoff. And guys, it's not mean to point out the obvious. It might be difficult for others to get excited for FPO action without Kristen Tatar in contention, especially when she was the favorite coming in for Worlds. Everyone knows the fan favorite drives eyes to the sport in some of the largest galleries. But after today's action, they just might have to start. Because at this point, the FPO race is far tighter than the MPO, with a wild card of a course that will see scores fluctuate over the 2 remaining days. The funny part, it couldn't have started off with more of a whimper. Holyn Handley came in with a 3-stroke lead, playing New London, where she kicked off her Worlds with a 10 under, but immediately went off the fairway on her first drive. Evelina Salonen, fresh off a hot round performance at Ivy Hills, landed in C2, looking to pick up a stroke early on both Holyn and Kat Murch, only for her to 3-putt from there, missing a 9-footer to save par with Holyn acting right beside her. Hey Jefferson, why don't you cue that Naked Gun cut? As everyone wishing for a battle from Evelina just realized it might not be, as most assumed more Evelina's putting woes would continue. And guys, they wouldn't be wrong either. Yet Holyn missed herself and Murch would be the only one to gain a stroke. The bleeding didn't stop as Holyn would go off the fairway again on hole 2. This time on her second shot to start her day with back-to-back bogeys, which saw her lead cut down to a single stroke after Kat downed a huge 52-footer like it was a fruit by the foot for her first birdie of the round. Unfortunately for Kat, she had a 3-hole stretch shortly after where she would go double, double, triple bogey on holes 5 through 8. She plummeted down the leaderboard and for many seemed out of contention, leaving Salonen and Handley left to fight it out. Yet credit does need to go to Kat for persevering in that moment on lead card where the cameras are shining the brightest, packed with spectators. Most would have folded in that moment. Instead, Kat would go 8 under the rest of the way, starting it off with another big C2 putt for eagle on 9. Climbed all the way back into 3rd position with 7 strokes off the lead. With the fattest part of the course lined up to score with 2 of the best distance throwers in the FPO, most were expecting fireworks. And Handley would absolutely deliver. She had an easy eagle on 7, followed by a breezy birdie, and capped the 3-hole stretch with a circle 2 eagle putt, going 9 down in that 3-hole stretch over the 2 rounds. Keep in mind she's currently 17 down for the tournament. Holyn would finish the front half 5 down, improving on the 3-stroke lead she came in with. But Salonen stuck around, minimizing the damage by going 3 under in that stretch also, needing to hit a nervy for Evelina 27-footer to do so. From there, Evelina would take over the round, while Holyn couldn't get things going on the back half, scoring a single birdie and bogey over the final 9 and finishing 5 under on the round. Yes, Evelina would score 4 birdies on the back 9 and hit up her Airbnb 8 under and tied for first. But that back half was just insane, as she would have a birdie look from within the circle on all but 1 hole after her precision off the tee. You didn't hear me wrong, and yes, she did miss 4 C1X putts in that span. However, she was just that good off the putting green, kind of flipping that putt for dough narrative. I'm old and I know that's going to piss a lot of you off, but she went 100% in fairway hits and C2 in regulation, which does matter for a player below 70% in C1X putting, whether you believe it or not. And of course, like always, she leads tee to green, this time by over 5 strokes from Natalie Ryan, who climbed into the moving day lead card with a 3 under round. But I believe it's Holyn and Evelina who will be battling it out. And yes, I'm sure everyone trusts Holyn's putts more, but I would just hold off, as Salonen has crushed Holyn in tee to green, both C1 and C2 in regulation, fairway hits with less OB strokes over the entire tournament, heading into Ivy Hills with all that roped off design.
The day started with just about every fan hoping Isaac Robinson didn't just run away with this thing for 2 years in a row. Well, besides the 5 people still supporting Prodigy, but they believe the earth is flat, so I don't really care. And after his first bogey of the tournament on hole 2, it gave us some hope. The only problem was the people on his card weren't applying any sort of pressure. Calvin Heimberg did start to become a threat after a 4 down through 5-hole stretch, but a bogey would slow him down as he would finish with a 5 under, just missing out on the lead card, which might just be a blessing in disguise. Adam Hammis would get New London, as he would finish the front 9-2 over par. Still managed an even finish, but dropped 9 spots, now outside the top 10. Simon Lizotte couldn't seem to get much going, except for hitting spectators with rollers, that is. Only leaving Joey Buckets, who was still running off adrenaline from Idlewild and spray can cheese. He would have a rough start being 1 over going into hole 7. That was enough to start a 4-hole birdie stretch that included a 50-footer on 9. Couldn't get up and down on hole 11, which resulted in a bogey, but responded with another ham bone of birdies, as Philo would say. Also, how did Terry and Nate Doss get the call before him? Another positive being on site. Then again, I gotta hear fans drop the weirdest disc golf takes. No matter how many times I hear it, I won't believe that Zanger is worth the money. Buckets finished out with 3 pars to finish the round 6 under. Too bad that would lose him a stroke to Isaac, as he would finish at 7 down. With the help from that sneaky stepper. What'd I say, people? Now with the 4-stroke lead headed into a course that Isaac's been absolutely shredding. It's really hard to bet against this guy right now. However, I will point out the tough greens and lots of OB at Ivy. We've seen crazier things. That's all I'm trying to say. Nicholas Antela put together the hot round with a 9 under that pushed him up 5 spots onto the lead card for round 4. He'll be looking to apply pressure on Isaac to make the round feel something other than a walk in the park. Antela went 14 for 14 inside the circle and smashed a 54-footer on 17 that everyone knew was in before he stepped up to his lie. Luke Taylor made his mom proud, making it back to the lead card after a 7 under day himself. Currently, he's 8 strokes back of the lead, but I think for him, staying on lead card should be the goal, as no matter what at this point, he should walk away feeling accomplished. Going from Rookie of the Year to in contention of a World Championship in a year span is nothing to overlook. I'm saying it now. Remember the name at D-Glow. And that's everything you need to know from round 3 of the World Championships. We're headed to moving day as players are looking to stay inside that cash line. 2 more rounds at Ivy. Damn, my body quivers just saying that. Whatever, I love this shit. If you see us there, make sure to come say what's up. We love meeting all you disgenerates. Seriously, even if we look like we're doing something, we're probably not.